Well, you're going to have to restart that.
All right, we're here with Woody the Catechumen. Funny I should mention that. Both of our names.
Yeah.
Okay, failed intro before.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We could start that joke over again.
No,
though.
we're not going to start the joke over again.
You know, Wilson is a Tom Hanks thing. Woody is a Tom Hanks thing.
I'm a volleyball, you're a toy.
That's right.
You're a child's play thing. I'm an adult's play.
You're an adult's.
I think I'd way rather be a
psychological coping mechanism.
That's right.
Wow, they're both toys though, and they both have to do with Tom
a
Hanks.
coping mechanism. Crap, I think I might have spiked it there.
That's all right. That's all right.
Okay, so today what are we talking about?
Well, today we're going to be talking about one of the most quintessential American classics, and I think
we're going.
And we're back. Are we back?
We are back.
Yeah, we're new at this.
We're new at this.
Yeah, this is.
You already have your podcast voice on.
We are new at this.
We are new.
No, I don't want to have a podcast voice.
Well,
it's really difficult not to, though. Okay, so what are we talking about today, Andrew? Wilson?
I asked you that.
I think I started to
You're gonna have to tell me
because
you're the one with the theories.
All right, yeah. No, today we're just going to be talking about a classic piece of Western film, and that is the film Dirty Harry. And now that's the original Dirty Harry, I believe 1972 or
71, I believe.
71. Okay, yeah.
This is about a movie about a couple of killers. Harry Callahan. And a homicidal maniac. The one with the badge is Harry.
So, Dirty Harry, absolutely classic film for anybody who likes kind of the modern Western, I guess you could say. And I'd say that everything that I have to say about the individualist, the film about an individualist, that's true about Dirty Harry is basically true of all kinds of Western individualist sorts of films. But because Dirty Harry is in a modern landscape, Dirty Harry especially is kind of relevant to some like underlying things that we'd be able to see easily in a more modern landscape. I guess like things.
It's basically become like an archetype.
Yeah,
archetypal like cop hero.
Right.
The Harry type, as we
right.
proved from that.
Oh man, yeah. For sure.
We found a pretty accurate parody online.
Yeah. No, that's Goose. Goose is Harry is. But you know,
police
it's
chief and everything.
Or like the canon movies, like what is that?
Police Academy?
No, canon.
Oh.
Like those like canon
Naked
movies.
Gun?
Like you ever, Red Letter Media is always talking about
those
like canon films and stuff.
Yeah, don't play by the rules, cop. All that
right,
stuff.
right. And they have like they have some really funny
20 cars.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's like it's absolutely perfect.
And 3 diners.
But something about it is it's just like it is the story of the American individual. Like this kind of set against the backdrop of this corrupt system that is supposedly for the good, but is just a failure altogether.
I would say there are a few different American individual stories.
Sure.
There's like the only example that comes to mind is you remember the movie Robots?
Oh, no, actually.
Okay, that's or like Zootopia, something like that,
sure.
where it's like there's like the innovator or the reformer.
Yeah,
kind of person who's like
funny you should say reformer,
like the bright-eyed. Okay, we'll get to that.
No,
there's like the bright-eyed idealist who's gonna like come in and change the system, that type of thing, and then like they meet some hardships, but at the end they succeed.
I guess I'm talking about
do.
a very specific kind of individual
yeah.
kind of film, though. And I'm talking about the American individualist as a conservative, not necessarily as a kind of...
you could say that. Because usually when you think like the American individual story, I'd say, yeah, it's something like Zootopia or, Huck Finn or something.
Yeah.
Somebody who either changes society or just throws it away and, like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest or something. Somebody who's coming in to disrupt things. But Harry's more... he's looking to maintain order.
Right, exactly. That's the point. And I think that it's like this. There's this massive problem with Harry, obviously. And because I should say this too, there is only one Dirty Harry movie, although there are 5. And he just progressively gets older, which is hilarious. There was this joke that he made that was like, I don't want to be rolling out of an old folks home for the 7th movie. So they just like stopped making him because I guess they asked him to make like a 6th one too, and he just didn't. But like they just get progressively more and more.
Like Gran Torino is kind of like the retiree version, right?
Really? No, that's
was he
true.
A cop in that?
No, he's a vet.
He's a vet.
Yeah, I used to stack like you in Korea, 5 feet high. We use it for sandbags. Yeah, I know. Like there again, it's like, well, that's perfect too for that
another
because
like
it's
tragic individual story, definitely.
Another tragic individual in this kind of environment that is just degrading, and everything that he knew and cared about is just gone. And especially as somebody of the greatest generation in Gran Torino, it's like he's just standing on this island trying to maintain. But there's the problem. Like that's the biggest problem with him is he's standing on an island trying to maintain it.
Yeah.
And it's like
that kind of brings us back to Harry, right?
Exactly. Is that Harry is the individual. He's the individualist conservative. So it's like, what is he trying to conserve? Well, he's trying to conserve like the rebellious breaking apart of things, I guess. Like, or this not rebellious breaking apart, but this kind of like thing where freedom is a sort of value,
Yeah, but he's not really trying to conserve that. He's not really trying to conserve any value, is he?
I don't think so. But that's like what's so tragic about it is it's like he's not really capable of doing anything to hold anything together.
Because like the American ideal is kind of what it's a pain in the ass for him like throughout the whole movie.
Exactly.
Right? It's it's what blocks the serial killer basically gets off towards the end of the film because of how our laws work. Like they mentioned the Constitution.
Yeah.
The Fourth Amendment right for privacy.
Yes.
That's actually what like blocks Harry from doing anything.
What I'm saying is that man had rights.
Well, I'm all broken up about that man's rights.
You should be. I've got news for you, Callahan. As soon as he's well enough to leave the hospital, he walks.
What are you talking about?
Right.
And it's weird that it's like it's in a it's an American archetype, but like it's kind of like anti American idealism, yeah.
No, absolutely. I think it's like, and this is where I would say that it is only one movie. That it is only like the Dirty Harry movie.
Yeah.
Because if you watch the Dirty Harry film, and if you didn't know that there were, a dozen of them that were gonna like follow up in the late 70s and the early 80s into the 90s, you wouldn't really think about Dirty Harry as like a movie that was going to have a sequel,
Yeah.
Well,
like you think he quits after that.
Yeah, no, and I think there's a good starting point. We're already in it, but like there's a good point to talk about in that he gives up at the end.
Yeah.
He gives up. He caves to the pressure.
Throws in the badge, literally.
Yeah, no, he throws in the badge, and it's not just like he like turns in his badge. He throws it into the abyss.
Turns in his badge, yeah.
Yeah, no, he
literally throws his badge in the water, though. Yeah.
Into murky factory like sewage water. You don't you don't get much more like the story's wrapped up, and then like the next movie you see him and it's just like I'm back on the job and look at all this.
They don't even mention it. It's weird.
There's nothing, and you're like, oh, Harry's back and he's got a new partner.
The only plot point they bring back is that like his wife is dead and he's sad about it. Basically, like it's not the same character. It doesn't even feel like because he's just he's like a pretty friendly guy. He's not.
It's fantasy, and it's kind of like at the point where it's like,
I mean,
no, wait, we didn't mean that the system was totally destroyed, and it's like at that point in the second film, you've got like it's like the system can be okay sometimes, that's your problem, Briggs. Good man always knows his limitations, but it's like Harry doesn't. The whole point of Harry, like that's actually a quote in the second movie. I don't know if you knew that.
Which one? No, I did not make it very far.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of hard unless you like love schlock movies. It's like it's really difficult to take that movie seriously.
Didn't have the same kinetic energy, I guess.
Yeah, like I think there's literally this thing where it's like Briggs is like saying something, and Harry corrects him
Briggs
and
is
says
the
like,
police chief.
"Yeah, he's the police chief who turns out to be a Nazi at the very end."
Oh, really?
Yeah, he
Is
turns
it the
out.
same one?
Yeah, no, second one, Magnum Force.
Yeah, it's the
He
same
turns
police
out
chief.
exactly. He turns out to be like the guy who's like, Harry, sometimes we need death squads because there's too much.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
it's a total flip, and it's like you don't buy it. Like you don't buy it because it's like all the movies. I'll just say this.
glad I didn't watch it.
Yeah, all the movies after the first Dirty Harry are total just schlock films that are not
Do they all kind of like defend
the system.
well, no, yeah, sort of like, just are they like, rah rah America types?
It's like rah rah the individual.
yeah,
is
rah
like
rah freedom.
it's like you're like a one man band army. Yeah,
I should probably clarify. I don't think either of us. Well, I don't personally have a.
I don't have a problem
I
with.
don't have a huge beef with like freedom and liberty. I think we both agree they have limits.
Well, it's just that liberty and freedom shouldn't be the high point of a society.
Yeah.
Because then that just means that nothing is the high point of your society.
Yeah, especially like the conservative idea of like negative freedom is, okay, well then what's positive? You're just
exactly.
telling us not to mind your business. Well, what?
Exactly. That's what's so tragic about Harry, though, is that it's
Yeah.
like he's obviously trying to like keep something together, like some kind of. It's like he's the only one in this place that everybody's gone mad, and
it literally is an upside down world.
yeah, no, I think so.
Especially towards the end when, spoilers, like the serial killer gets off.
Yeah.
He's being covered, sympathetically by the media.
Oh, that's great.
Um,
We can talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
Hold on, let's get to that in just a minute. But
Okay.
I just wanted to flesh out a little bit more about just Dirty Harry's kind of, just kind of what he represents and the sort of symbol of him being like the one cop that like the one cop that can do anything. He's kind of Batman in this way.
Yeah.
Like definitely San Francisco is Gotham City before Gotham City.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was in the comics.
Honestly, I don't know how much how Dirty Harry like Batman was before that, because you think of that. I mean, obviously like Batman 66 or whatever. That's like a parody, but
yeah,
that's kind of what Batman was. He was just
the Batman that everybody loves is
Bam Powell
the
would
kind of
beat up the bad guys.
Yeah.
He wasn't like brushing up against the system or anything, was he?
No,
I wouldn't
I
really
think
know,
that's
but-
kind of like maybe that just came later, and definitely like it's definitely was crystallized in like the Nolan movie era of Batman. It's just like it's basically Dirty Harry with wings and money.
Yeah, sort of.
like I think so. But like the tragic thing about it is it's just like so. All right. Well, we already talked about the tragic thing about it, but I just want to say a little bit more about like Dirty Harry is like he carries a 44 Magnum, which is not like, which is
Rather
great.
excessive.
Yeah, it's excessive.
Left hand. Let's see the gun. My, that's a big one.
But it's like even that, I think it says something about like it doesn't really matter what kind of like hardware you have or just really what the sort of power. Like you can have the most power in a material sense, and everybody watches that in the first thing. And when he's taking out the bank robbers, it's playful. Like he's just he's just going through mowing everybody down.
Yeah,
and
he's not even done chewing his sandwich before he's like out of the diner and shooting down.
He just like
shooting down
goes
criminals.
Exactly, and then he plays with one. He toys with this one.
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kind of lost track myself. But Ian, this is a 44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off. You've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
And this is like it's not only just like a go ahead, make my day. It's not just a throwaway line. It's just like he plays with them, and then I got to know, and it turns out it was empty, and the guy gets arrested. And it's like, yeah, Harry can like deal with a certain amount of chaos. Like he can take on like a certain amount of chaos.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's obviously what the gun is representing, is that he's powerful in a certain sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get to the end of the film where it's just like the Joker. You basically like the serial killer is the Joker essentially, and like you get to that point and it's just total chaos. And Harry does the only sensible thing. He finishes the job, but it's a Pyrrhic victory. Like he's aware that this doesn't matter how powerful you are. Like he ends up throwing his star into the into the abyss. It's because if you are just an individual, then you're
it doesn't matter how many like what is it? How many times you can like one shot kill somebody?
Yeah,
moving
caps
car,
everybody. Yeah, just like blows through the windshield.
He's like he's the man. He is the man with no name, basically.
Oh yeah,
he never misses. At least in the first scene, he's pretty much like the perfect killing machine.
And despite that, he's absolutely powerless against
society.
This,
just doesn't have a place for him.
Yeah, well, it's because it's like. It's such a stark contrast because like the world is upside down in it. The police, the mayor and the police station, they're just constantly bending the knee to this sort of like, they're ineffective. There's not one time that the system is effective in that entire movie. Like they don't ever get anything right. Tell me, because I don't really.
I guess they failed at. I mean, they scared off the serial killer at the beginning, but then they don't catch him, even though they know exactly what building he's in.
Yeah, there's the bureaucracy that's involved that like is obviously a block to Harry.
Yeah.
There's the incompetence that's involved that's a block to Harry, and then there's just like the absolute, just corruption, I guess you could say, that is just. Well, I don't know if you'd call it corruption.
Yeah, not exactly.
Well, no, I would say corruption because like the media.
When you think political corruption.
Yeah, the media is part of it. I would say, like, because it's just like this whole. They just eat it up. They eat up that like this guy's like Harry Callahan beat me up and look at me, look what they did to me, which is a wonderful.
So, towards the end we maybe give context. To that,
sure, towards the end when the serial killer is he's apprehended by Harry in a certain sort of way. Like Harry basically. He chases him down and like ends up getting him kind of like dead to rights, only in a totally illegal way.
The serial killer has a hostage who's slowly dying, and Harry I don't know if that's really that would be outside of the law at that point to shoot like a running assailant. That might have come up later. I'm not sure. But
whatever.
Like,
you can basically just guess that everything he does in that scene is illegal. But but it's like absolutely justified from you watching the narrative of there's a girl that he's aware of that is asphyxiating, that is the serial killer's hostage. He runs all over town trying to save this girl and placate the demon by giving him money, which is the mayor's decision. And then finally at the end, the serial killer says, like, well, you know what? I'm just going to let her die. And then he runs off into the night. And then Harry tracks him down. Mm-hmm. And after being beaten up as well, tracks him down. And
he doesn't play by the rules anymore.
He's like, it's
at that point he's done like playing nice, like the way that the establishment wants him to. So
sure, exactly. So at that point, it's like, he's all bruised up and everything. It's just like it, and you can totally see this narrative of just like the DA just basically going like, we can't do anything about this because he's, this illegal search. You can't do anything about that.
Illegal search and seizure.
Yeah. What a wonderful sort of like, and I wanted to just say about this is that like the final point where like Harry finally is able to like confront him and physically get the upper hand. The serial killer is like laying there helplessly, and you still get a sense though that like Harry is outmatched. Like this is the first time that Harry has actually got the upper hand on the serial killer. Yeah. And he's still outmatched by the serial killer because the serial killer is sitting there just like, in horrible
got the law
pain.
To hide behind now.
Right. And he's like, I want a lawyer. I want all this stuff. And it's perfect because it's right in the middle of a stadium. So like the image of just like this game that's being played between the two of them is just right in your face. Mm-hmm. And despite all of these things and despite everything the audience knows, like the audience knows that Harry is not like the abusive cop. He's not, like the audience knows this, and yet like the audience also knows that it's like Harry's bitten off more than he can chew. Like he's sitting there and like this guy is gonna get off, and then finally when they let him off, he like he goes and he he goes traipsing around town wearing a peace sign belt buckle. Like
the serial killer.
The serial killer, goes traipsing around town in a peace sign belt buckle.
Like stalking, playgrounds and strip clubs and.
Yeah, and then finally just like gets himself beaten up to even further strengthen the narrative that he's just being abused by Harry Callahan.
Yeah.
And it's just like.
Should say he like pays some random guy to beat him up.
Yeah. He pays this guy to beat him up, and then the next scene, like when you see him, just like his face is like brutalized.
He's in the hospital crying to the media at that point.
Yeah, and they're just like absolutely concerned with him, and just like they eat it up, and and then Harry gets a stern sort of warning, and like
not a very. I mean, it could have been sterner. They kind of let him off on like Harry leaves on an ambiguous note, and they don't push it any further than that because they tell him basically to lay off of the serial killer, but it's pretty obvious.
Yeah,
I think the chief could tell that he's not going to do that.
Yeah,
but maybe he doesn't care. I don't know. He's a fascist in the second movie, so
yeah. Oh wait, no, it's not the same chief from the first movie.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
No, it's different. Yeah. It's like the cast is everybody swaps around Harry except for the fat guy from the movie. Which also I just want to say one more thing about Dirty Harry's character, and that is that he's like, even when he has partners, he's basically totally alone. You get like 5 minutes of like bonding between like the new partner before he's just kind of like, I'm gonna quit because you're dangerous, and I don't like my wife doesn't like this job, and I don't like it either.
Like the only time he really helps is the time that he gets. Does he get shot at that point? And that's why he's in the hospital.
He gets shot when Harry's being. I feel like I didn't explain this narrative very well, but I'll give you the quick.
Yeah, that's fine. You should watch the movie.
You should have
said that first.
Yeah, maybe watch the movie before you listen to this. But
20 minutes in.
Yeah, 20 minutes in. Yeah, I don't know. We can interject that at the very beginning. Please watch Dirty Harry before listening to this podcast.
This is Woody the Catechumen.
God, I really hope that doesn't stick. No, so just wanted to say this one thing. At the point, would you like the climax of the film? When the chase is happening, like it's definitely when like the stress is leveled
the school
up.
Bus.
No.
Not that
I'm thinking before that.
Okay.
When Harry gets
the football scene.
Yep. Before that. When he first meets the chase.
Yeah.
It's a
please
great
watch
chase.
the movie before you.
Yeah. Please watch the movie before watching.
I'm not good at explaining this.
It's kind of like we explain things in medias res. It's just like, here you go.
Well.
So let's rewind a little bit. Before the stadium scene, when Harry has the upper hand, to the opposite of that, when the criminal has the upper hand.
Yeah.
He runs Harry like all around town. When they first meet is when Harry is bringing him money, like we said earlier, to placate the serial killer.
Yeah.
So he's got
to get a hostage back. Basically.
Exactly. Because there's a girl dying.
Yeah,
and
she's buried alive. So she's slowly suffocating.
Yeah, like 14-year-old girl too. Like this is like high stakes.
Yeah.
Stuff, and it really is.
Yeah,
like
it really is an intense situation in the.
Yeah, and like he runs into all sorts of obstacles and stuff. But the final place he goes to, and this is funny, he climbs a mountain. He goes to Mount Davidson, which is a real place in San Francisco. I was actually there.
Mount Golgotha. I mean,
yeah. He goes to Mount Golgotha.
Can't tell where
Davidson.
this is going. But.
He climbs a mountain, and to the place where they finally face off, which is Mount Davidson Cross, where there's just this massive Christian cross lit up in the night. And if you've ever been there and seen it, it's basically that. It's just this big concrete cross that's lit up at night. And this is where Harry is, like, you fully see, and it's like so explicit that Harry is just being sacrificed, basically.
Yeah.
And so
he's being beat up, and he can't do anything about it because the serial killer still hasn't given him the information.
Right.
After he's given serial killer the money.
Right, yeah, he drops the bag and, and then, you get this little exchange, and then the serial killer's like,
Yeah.
thanks for the money, peace out, I'm going to let her die. And, and
after he has his fun, like, kicking the crap out of him for a little while.
Yeah, and he really, and like you get this sort of like, he just gets brutalized, and it's at the cross.
It's a sacrifice, but it doesn't really lead to anything.
Right, exactly. Which is, you can kind of say that about Dirty Harry in general. Like, he is the one, like, he's Dirty Harry. Every dirty job that comes along, he gets. He's this sort of like, he is this the one that like the sacrifice is always laid on, and ultimately you really get the impression when you're finished with the film that it makes no difference whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like, it's because he's just the individual, and it's like, you're limited as an individual, it's the reason why it's the reason why, like, what makes this movie just like basically a standalone film, and why the ones that came after it are all fantasy. It's like fantasy of like a 5-year-old that was like, you know what? If I was going to go up against Al Qaeda, I would have a bazooka and I would blow them all away. It's like, yeah, great. It's like, it's so unreal. It's like the only people who can really like watch something like that and love it are people who are just looking for just a schlock movie, or 5-year-olds that are just like, you go get him, Harry. Go get every single variety of terrorist. Yeah. So... yeah, ultimately, Harry sacrifices everything, and he's even leaves the Force. He's the revolutionary, and his place is to point out both this disgusting sort of chaos out in the exterior and all of the grime and filth of Gotham, San Francisco, and then also to like point towards the inadequacies of the system. But ultimately, he's powerless against both of these things because he's one, So it doesn't matter that he has the .44 Magnum, or he has like the big elephant shooting gun.
Unbelievable shooting skills, and
yeah, it's like he can, even though it's such a. I honestly like. Oh man, every time a movie finishes, like it would not be nearly as good if it like, if he shoots the guy, and then you just hear like some like upbeat, like, we got him, Hawaii 5-0 music or something.
Yeah.
It would be horrible. Like, it would be like, that movie was such a schlocky movie, but it doesn't do that. It has this really depressing strings and electric piano.
I think it's just electric piano.
There's some strings in there. It's like synth strings, maybe, if you wait for it enough, if you're patient.
Oh, maybe.
But like, regardless, it's just this depressing kind of music, and then he quits the Force. Like, and it like, in a way also that is not dramatic. That's one way also that I'm really, I'd say like I'm happy with this ending, because it's not like I do not think it's a cliche ending. The cliche ending or whatever would be like, or the cliche cop quits thing is like, here boss, here's my badge, here's my gun, I'm done, I'm out of here, which kind of happens before this, but like this ending, it's
that usually
like,
happens at like the end of the second act or something, right?
Yeah. But I'm just saying, it's like, and all the cliches of cop movies are kind of started by this one. So it's not as if it's not full of cliches. But like, I just wanted to stress that like the ending of this movie is just, it's so real to what the story is. And it's like, you buy everything. You buy that, like, when you've seen the whole film, like, you can buy that Harry's like, he never misses, and that he's like, he's got the biggest gun. It's like, yeah, sure. They wouldn't let any other officer do that, but sure, yeah, we'll let you. But you buy all this stuff and you totally swallow it, and it's real, because at the end of the movie, he can't change the system, which is broken, and he cannot change the chaos, which consumes him, and he just like, and it's not a declarative, like, I'm done with this.
Oh, like external chaos, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
The external chaos
like
and the internal corruption.
Okay.
Like the upside down world, and then the like just the chaos that is kind of always there. He can't fight either of them. They're kind of one and the same and indistinguishable at that point. And it's just like, yeah, you give up. And I don't know. I love that ending. I always thought that was
it's a great ending.
Yeah, it's very dramatic, and it just makes you think, like, I don't know. Now here's the part where we can get either political or theological. you
Pick your poison. Yes.
Okay, so political first. So
Okay.
like let's ease into it. Political, as in this kind of like, much as I am very much, and I do, I love this sort of. It's crazy because I like this character and I like this archetype, and I like the one who stands up, in theory. But it's like, if you're not a bundle. That's why the fasci is a symbol. Like it's over a lot of different cultures, the fasci is a symbol.
Oh yeah.
If you don't know it, it's like it's in the Lincoln Memorial. It's under Abe's.
Really?
Yeah, it's under Abe's hands. The fasci. It's in Congress too.
It's interesting.
Sometimes it has an axe, sometimes it doesn't. My implication about the fasci is not to tie in with fascism, but just this idea of that this bundle of sticks that are bound together are stronger than the one that breaks. And if you want a really explicit version of that, watch the first 5 minutes of Ron.
Yeah.
But anyway,
another one we could talk about on here. But
let's not get into that though, just yet. We'll get into foreign films at some point in time, certainly. But we want to kind of focus on more Western-related things, as that's kind of like the water we're swimming in now. Just like Harry's badge, we are swimming in this water. But anyway, no, I just wanted to say that it's like, the tragic thing is it's like, sure, a lot of American conservatives are like this very Second Amendment kind of, don't tread on me, stay off my land, get off my lawn. That kind of like vibe or that kind of atmosphere is pretty common among kind of right-wing conservatives and such. And like this movie, though it could be an anthem for some, is kind of like it shows kind of the futility of that kind of a thing, because it's like you're not an army as one, and if there ever was some kind of a tyranny that was taking over, it's like, what are you gonna do? You gonna show up to it like you show up to target practice with your friends within 30-minute tolerance of one another? It's it doesn't matter. It's like, oh, well, I've got my AR, I've got all this stuff. It's like, that's great. That was great when we had communities that weren't, what I mean? Like when you weren't just individuals living out on your individual farms and such. And I say that with like affection because I know a lot of people like this, and it's like, I love these people, but it's like, you need to have a community, and so like, now I'll just make a quick segue into how I just think that this ties in sort of theologically to an extent, is that in order to be part of a community, like that was the political example. Now here's the kind of religious example, is that if you want to be part of a community, you have to be part of a community. You have to have a sense of community, and your tradition has to be built off of more than just breaking a tradition and being a reformer.
Yeah.
So here we go. This is into this stuff.
We're heading into the anti-Protestant part of the podcast. This is going to be a regular segment, I have a feeling.
Maybe. No, no, that's all I'll say. No, that's all I'll say about it. And it's funny because it's like the thing about it, I love the Dirty Harry character, but it is Martin Luther, in a certain sort of sense. And so like I have, it's like the things Americans owe a lot to the reform, because this country would not exist without reform culture, just that at this point in the story, when this kind of like, when the revolutionaries are the ones that are setting the tradition, it's like, what do you do but revolt as part of your tradition? And then the breakdown continues. And so it's like, as much as we owe thanks to these people, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. And Luther was definitely a giant who, in a lot of ways, changed things for, he shook things up, and
basically a legend, like at this point,
yeah, kind
nailing the 95 theses to the wall.
Yeah.
Like that sort of thing. Yeah.
No, yeah. Like, it's like, yeah.
Yeah, maybe some of that's exaggerated. I don't know. Maybe
like it is exaggerating,
story, but it's not really important. Like, the important thing is kind of just like the archetype of, the reformer.
The archetype of the reformer and the rebel. And it's like, I think that there's something
with Luther, but
yeah, we could have. But I wanted.
Woody doesn't know that.
I wanted to bring up.
We'll play along.
I wanted to bring up Luther just because it's like the idea of that was creating a new tradition, but it was creating a new tradition based on reform rather than being rather than being a sort of, because I think that like the reformer, just like the holy fool, you know, and it like has a way of pointing at things, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just like the holy fool is not the one that starts a new tradition, you know, at least not one that lasts or stays the same for very long. Because it's like if your job is to invert things and to break things and move things upside down.
What the holy fool is.
Okay, so like the holy fool is probably best explained in the story of the emperor who had no clothes.
This is like a type of character. Right?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's like, so everybody kind of knows the story of this emperor who's deceived into buying very expensive threads that are invisible, but they're only invisible to like foolish people or...
No, they're only invisible to the king, I think, was the idea.
Oh, maybe. Something like that.
Well, that's how it's sold.
There's a whole different like variety of reasons why it could only be invisible. But there was like some kind of a clause built in that it's like, if you can't see the threads, then that means you're like a bad person in some way. So everybody's like, oh, I can see the threads.
Perhaps.
You know, I can see it. Well, it's one way to tell it.
Yeah.
And anyway, like the fool who doesn't know any better, or rather is always inverting things.
I think it's pointed out by like a child in the story, right?
Yeah. Which it's a child or like maybe it was like a jester or something, but like you could see it in any of these sort of ways that it's like it's someone who's not like they're foolish enough to point out like, hey, you're not wearing any clothing. And it's like the exposer, and then it's like it just breaks this bubble that like everybody already knew.
Yeah.
You know, and
but they usually have like no concept of. Well, they don't have like. They're serving a higher purpose, but they're not like they're not conscious of it exactly.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly.
So,
what is it? Yeah,
calling Martin Luther like a holy fool is kind of might be a little iffy. I don't know.
I'm not saying he's exactly a holy fool.
Okay.
I'm saying he's a reformer.
Yeah.
Like I think, and in any case, he's pointing something out. Like he was pointing something out that he's like has clear problems with, and that is like is broken in a way. He's pointing out all these broken things in a system that nobody else is doing, you know. But I'm just saying, like, all I'm saying is that, like, he's the inverter. Or not, like, he's not the inverter, maybe, but he's, like, he's the reformer. He's, like, the guy who's, like, this is wrong. And, you know, he's trying to maintain tradition. So, like, he did keep a lot of Catholic doctrine. But like he wanted to separate himself from it. He wanted to reform. He wanted to fix it. But it wasn't on the, you know, it was fixing things by distancing from them or by, you know, by breaking off from them. So you may not call him like a holy fool. And I don't think I would really call him a holy fool either. 'Cause I have this idea in my head that holy fools won't end up spurring the Enlightenment or something. But depends the context, I guess. I don't know.
No, I think like the spirit of Martin Luther was perfectly. And I sent you a clip from Justin Murphy, who's like this. I don't know. He's like a ex-academic YouTuber guy, and basically he I don't know. He converted to Christianity recently, and he was talking about it. And he just said, try to serve the highest thing possible, you know, look for like the highest thing you can possibly serve, and then just so that you can not just so, but like so that you can look at any other authority and basically tell them to, you know, go shove it.
Yeah. Oh man.
So it's and that's like okay, but you're not really that's not a firm foundation exactly.
Yeah, well, like I think part of, and now here's really to get into
start a movement on that, I suppose.
Right. And I think here's like really where we get into like the bones of certain sort of things, of that idea of like serve the highest good so that you could tell everything else to go shove it is so much in the mind. Like it's so much in the mind, it's just like there's no body to it.
Yeah.
And really, all right. So here's where like Dirty Harry has the massive gun. Like he's got like the tangible thing that is like, it's the 44 Magnum, most powerful handgun in the world, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I don't know. You could also say in a certain kind of way that like, it's like the whole really sola scriptura kind of like just the heart of it and nothing else matters.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if that's the case, then everything else, you just let water into every other area. Like this whole thing of like serve the highest, which is like, what's the highest good? And then everything else doesn't matter. It's like, well, I don't know. Like, and that's where like the reformer is kind of like, you know, especially the revolutionary kind that is kind of trying to bring things back to square one, like ultimately just opens up a vacuum that gets filled. And, you know, in this kind of, it's pretty clear now that it's, you know, even in the time of Dirty Harry, 1971, that, there was plenty of void that got filled by just a bunch of upside down world vacuum. Or a bunch of, you know, the vacuum got filled by upside down worldness. And, you know, if you look around today, we're in a similar kind of situation in modernity where the vacuum's been kind of filled and is just a lot of chaos everywhere.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah.
What's the line from Judges? The book of Judges, and everybody, it's like everybody followed their own, what they thought was right in their own eyes. That's kind of,
yeah.
You could probably apply that to the Protestant, you know, like post-Luther Protestantism, you know, like you remember like the city of Munster, like that's hardcore history podcast where
the city of Munster.
Basically like this after Luther, like there, you know, this one cult arose because, you know, one guy said like, oh, I have the real truth of the Bible. And so this town follows him.
Yeah.
And then that just basically leads to their destruction because like the authorities basically like starve them out.
Yeah.
And it just gets, very ugly podcast, but very interesting.
Yeah, no, for sure. Oh, Dan Carlin's podcast.
Like stuff, I think like, like cults and stuff like that were popping up all the time and like in the wake of Luther. You know, obviously now we have many denominations and stuff.
Yeah, I think that there's about, I don't know, it's kind of like new bands that come out and like they just like with them comes out a new musical genre. Yeah. Either that or like there's to quote a Quebecois Canadian, there's either too much oneness and it's all this stuff that is just the same, or there's too much multiplicity and everything new that comes out is just novel and, you know, different and more chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's it.
Yeah. We're off in the weeds now, so.
Right. Yeah, no, I think we're off into the weeds. We kept it pretty close to the
this was good.
Excellent.
Pretty focused.
Awesome. We're getting better at this, folks.
Yeah.
Just slightly.
Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. You need tradition in your life. Yeah. Okay. So adopt an ancient one that's close to the truth.
You could tell the new modern people to screw it.
No. I don't know. I don't want to like do like a I don't want to speak about things that I'm definitely not knowledgeable enough to speak about, but at least I can point at problems with systems and with modernity, just like Harry did.
Okay. Well, and that's the show.
That's it. See ya, folks.
See you next time.